you all doing? Welcome back to the Herbig Design Co workshop. I picked up this new table saw almost a couple of months ago now from the team at Carbatec, and I've been running it nicely. There's a few little things I still need to finish setting up. I haven't even got my tape on it yet, so I need to put the tape measure on, but it's all dialed in. It's been working beautiful. The problem I'm missing is that all my old jigs and stuff that I had from my last table saw don't fit this because I upgraded from a job site saw to a cabinet saw. So today it's jig day. First cab off the rank, we're going to make ourselves a table saw sled. Pretty basic build. It's something you can knock out in next to no time at all. I'm just going to use offcuts of plywood that I've got in the workshop. But first things first, we want to glue up these panels. We'll throw a bit of glue on these. We'll let these glue up. I'm not the only one that always has problems with the glue bottle being gummed up every time you want to use it. Yeah, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pop some brad nails in this just to keep it together, hold it together while I move on. Like I said, it's a day build, it's a quick build, it's not something I want to sit around waiting for glue to dry. With those drying up, going to turn our attention to the rails, or the runners. So again, this next offcut turns out to be the same size. What I'm going to do is I'm going to rip some pieces off this to the width of the runners on my table saw. So what I'll do is I'll actually bring it down, I'll cut it down bigger than that, and then we'll sneak up on that cut and get it just right. Once we've got it right, then we can run a few off and we'll have a few runners ready for future sleds. Okay, so we've got our runners cut. Slot in there nicely. There's next to no play in that. Push through a little bit, but I don't think I've ever made a run of that snug. So next step, we want to get our runners, pick the best two. Let's go with those two. We want them to sit just below, which they do. We'll pop these ones aside. Like I said, we'll use these again for another jig. What we're going to do now, we need to glue those down. So I actually want to offset mine a little bit. So I'm going to set my fence to where I want the blade to run. So I can see where my throat plate is. I can guide my general idea on where I want it to be. What I really want to be able to do is if I'm making a 450, 500mm chopping board, I want to be able to end that off and potentially use a stop block. I'm sitting at about 600mm, so I'm happy with where that is. Just going to bring the fence up just as a reference point. Now the problem I've got is these runners are so great and they sit just below the height of the table, so I need to lift them up a bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and raid the kids' money banks and see if I can find some 5-cent coins to pop down in there just to give it a little bit of height to lift those up so I can glue the sled base to the runners. We'll be right back. Score! Turns out the kids are richer than I am. So a couple of 5-cent coins will fit in the slot nicely. What that's going to do, like I said, it's just going to lift the runner up a little bit proud of the table so that when I sit the board on it, it's actually going to make contact. If you can't find 5-cent coins, some washers will do the job too. I'm going to run a bead of Just some Zap CA glue. And for added strength, I'm going to add a little bit of wood glue in there too. Just some tight bond. As I said before, I'm going to line up my fence as my reference point. I know my fence is square to my blade, so it's going to have me pretty close to square. A little bit of weight on it for now, just to let it set up a bit. So you can see we've got our runners on there now. That's going to keep gluing up as the tight bond sets. I'll put this aside and let's square up our front and back fence. So there's one more thing I want to do before I start adding the fences. And I've got some T-track that I want to add in. I'm going to put in a couple of T-tracks, probably just inside the miter rails. I might actually just do one on one side. And what that's going to do is allow me to put in a hold down. So if I'm working on some real small pieces, I'll have a little hold down clamp that I'll be able to work with. I've got marked out on here where I want my T-track. I'm probably going to sit maybe 50mm, 30mm in from where the runner's going to sit, which is going to put me nice and close to the blade, but not too close. Okay, now that we've got that channel cut out, ready to put the T-track in later, we can get to adding our front and back fences. So I'm not too concerned about where this sits, as long as it's kind of centre. Really just going to eyeball it. This fence is really just for stability. Once we put a cut through the middle of this, obviously the structure is gone. It's going to split apart. By putting a small back fence on and then our front fence, it's going to help keep that stability together. I'm not going to glue it. I tend not to glue my workshop jigs, because you never know when you might want to make a change to it. We're going to do the same for the front fence. So we're not going to drive all the screws home just yet. Stage I'm only going to put 2 in. What this is going to allow me to do is once I get it back on the table saw, I'll cut the relief cut and then I can make sure this back fence is squared up to the cut. So we're just going to run through just enough to get a relief cut in, and then we'll look at squaring up this back fence. Now my speed square is good in most cases, and I can see looking at that, it's a little bit out, but what I'm actually going to need is I've got my engineer's square. It's what I pull out when I need to go that extra level with precision. I can see I need to come back on this corner a bit. When you make an adjustment, never go back into the same hole. It's just going to draw it back into the same spot. Always pre-drill a new hole. I can see that now, based on my relief cut, that is bang on. Going to our last bit. Got a T-track in. Now what I'm going to do is line it up at the front and leave a gap at the back. What that's going to allow me to do, the gap is important. Without the gap, you can't get your T-bolt in and out. And that's our sled done. If I want to put a stop block on it, all I need to do is clamp on a piece. I can clamp that on anywhere. Put it on where I want it, throw a clamp on it, and I can make repeatable cuts over and over. That's our simple miter sled in less than a couple of hours done. Next sled, next video, is a jointer sled and a tapering sled. So it's going to do both functions in one. Stay tuned.